On Air with Cash. Our guest today played Karen Arnold on the hit series The Wonder Years, Princess Jenna and Conan the Destroyer. You can catch her as Linda in the new feature film Bandit with Josh Duhamel, Elisha Cuthbert, and Mel Gibson. Please welcome Olivia Diablo.
Hello, it's so nice to be here.
Olivia, it is so nice to meet you as well, too. I grew up watching you. Wonder Years was such a part of my childhood, and it was one of those shows that me and my family would get together and watch. So the storylines mainly revolved around Kevin and as well as the narration. I felt like you were such a strong lead and really just captured the essence of a 60s flower child. I saw so much strength and energy through your character.
Wow.
And I just commend you for your performance and what you represented.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be able to be the person that kind of represented that that generation, you know, the flower child, the hippie, the, you know, anti-Vietnam, that, you know, Karen was a great role for me to play, especially as a teenager, because I brought a lot of my teenage angst into the role and always had kind of a bohemian sensibility innately anyway. And that was even enhanced more when I moved to Taos, New Mexico, where Easy Rider was shot. And so there was a little bit of that riffraff left there when I moved there from England, which was a complete culture shock. But I feel like it was in a sense part of my destiny to have had that experience, that kind of quintessential Americana. It was a real culture shock for me, but a great indoctrination into what this country has to offer, and all the different cultures are welcomed. So that was very much put into Karen. I think that was a really important part of almost like my research in a sense, but I didn't know I was going to play the role until much later. Yeah, I loved it. I love The Wonder Years. I still watch it. I love that it still touches people's heart and has such a specific message that you can sort of take into your week and really allow it to percolate.
It does take place in a specific time, late 60s, early 70s, but the show itself is timeless, that still touches on every generation. You were born in London, but moved to Los Angeles and went to high school here, and this was around the time when you booked The Wonder Years.
Yeah, it was. And I went to Pacoima Junior High, which was amazing. It was a magnet school, sort of the equivalent to the school in New York that Fame show came out of, a magnet school. So very much catered to kids who were gifted, kids who wanted to get into the performing arts and dance and sing. And I got into all these Shakespeare contests. And so it was really in junior high that I nipped it in the bud that that's what I wanted to do. Though I had gotten the bug earlier on when I was about 7 from seeing my dad on stage in London in a show called Gulliver's Travels, which he wrote as a musical. And just seeing your parent up there, you know, having this amazing connection with the audience and public. And I actually walked up on stage with him because I just thought he's my dad, and so why not? And he's like, no, Olivia, you need to sit down now because I'm actually going to be doing a performance. I was like, I want to be on stage, Dad. You know, oh, look at all these people, and oh my goodness, it's just brilliant, you know. And he hadn't come up after, but yeah. So, I mean, I come from a primarily performing arts family. You know, my father's a musician, my mom was a model and an actress, so they never forced me into doing what I ended up just wanting to do sort of organically, just from the local osmosis that I picked up around me, and just loving acting and performing.
Your dad, a Manfred Mann's Earth Band?
Yeah. It's really good music. Brit rock is like some of the best music ever, and it's so deeply influenced by blues and all this great American music, you know, down from the Bayou and from Muscle Shoals and New Orleans and Georgia and all these great places, you know. So it really crosses over in an interesting way musically when it gets to England.
Another thing we have in common too, my dad was a music executive. He needed all the licensing for Honeymoon in Vegas.
Oh my God.
He actually had to approve True Romance before anyone knew who Tarantino was. He read the script. There were some music things like,
wow.
You know, my mom worked for the Beach Boys and Johnny Carson. So, you know, growing up I went with my mom to work. I mean, one of my first roles was I was a little kid in Naked Gun 3. I was a little bummed out that they cut my scene in the grocery store, but you could see my spiky little mullet in the background.
Oh, I'll have to look out for that.
There was a period in my childhood you were always on TV. It started with The Wonder Years. Then, of course, The Big Green, which my buddy Pat Reno was one of the kids. He was the goalie in there.
Oh, wow, yeah. I love him. That's amazing. I loved that film. It made me so maternal with all those kids, you know, because of my character, sort of looking after them and kind of guiding them and teaching them how to play soccer. But The Big Green is, it's one of those films where it really touched such a specific audience, which is millennials who were kids, you know, when it came out in 95. And then I had my son around in 95. So the timing was kind of pivotal and perfect in a way. It's a sweet, feel-good movie. You can put it on any time, any place, and it's a really entertaining film, and it's just got so much heart.
That it does. I mean, that was one of those movies that growing up, it was always on television.
Yeah, yeah.
I had done some acting as a teenager, and then I went to college, got a communications degree, and I started working at WME in the voiceover department. And I know you've done so many voiceover work, from the Justice League to Star Wars. You were Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat, which is like, that was such a big thing.
That time. I had to say it. Because she's such a badass, and that was like one of the first series that I did. And Cree Summer, who's an amazing.
I worked with Cree for a bit too. Yeah,
love her. She's incredible. She and I just would. Had we gone to school together, we would have been suspended pretty much. Because we just like the symbiosis, the kinetic energy when you put the two of us together. So we had a lot of fun. She made that job even more fun for me, just because of her essence and who she is.
Cree was someone who I was a bit starstruck going in and working at the office. Right when I get there too, Jonathan Silverman and Sean Michael Howard were both crying at the time. I got a little starstruck because, again, growing up in the 90s, three of you were on television together. Our Thursday nights were Friends, Single Guy, and Seinfeld.
Oh, no, you watched The Single Guy.
I did, yes. Big. Oh, yeah.
27 years. I literally just... I think it was Jonathan that just tweeted it, then Ming now tweeted it. I had the Bandit premiere last night, so I was like, I'm tweeting it the next day. But, you know, it's one of those shows that was so much fun. And I think, you know, Brad Hall and that connection of him being married to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, still married, they're amazing. Like, they're such an inspiration to me as a married couple, because they're always laughing. And they have just such a great sense of humor and a great approach to comedy. And I think, you know, Brad really wanted Single Guy, with the lineup and everything, to sort of be like the next Seinfeld. And in many ways, you know, it had that sort of essence to it.
It introduced me to so many comedians. So that show, I learned who Don Rickles was because of that.
Yeah, the whole like that whole era, Ernest Borgnine. I mean, what an amazing opportunity to get to work with one of the great veterans of all time. He had a birthday, I think it was his 70th or 80th, and Red Fox was there, and Don Rickles, and Don Rickles did our show, you know. He's like, you're a limey, and you're a that. He just called it out. I mean,
oh yeah, Sean told me, he goes, oh, Don Rickles said a joke to me, but he goes, but it was Don Rickles, so that was okay that he said that.
So hilarious. Oh my God.
I think we had just seen Back to School, and there was a Rodney Dangerfield reference in there, and he actually made a cameo at the end. Then Don Rickles came on an episode. He was doing his thing, and I was telling my dad, this guy's like ripping on everyone. And he goes, and he explained who he was. And my dad actually went to a show in the 70s, and they were in the front. No one wants to get in the front, so Don Rickles ripped on him and his friend, but we're all good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of gonna happen. There's no way. It's inevitable if you're in the front and he can see you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, he will literally, like, he just sort of kind of goes down the line, you know, of each person, and then he's like, and then you, well, can we just talk about your hair? What's going on? Like, did you wash it in the dryer, or what happened? You know, he's sorely missed, because it's such a specific era that he comes from, and you know, it's got almost like that vaudevillian thing, you know, that he comes from, that a lot of actors from that time had to kind of do it all.
Davy Jones was on, and there was this, I talked to Sean about it, when he walks in and he's starstruck, and he goes, can I have an autograph? And he goes, sure. He goes, David, who's Davy Jones? He goes, no, man, you're Dudley Moore from Arthur. He goes, no, I'm Davy Jones from the Monkees. And we talked about that now, and him and Sean had some good Davy Jones stories. I had just seen Arthur, got that reference at however old I was at the time, and had gotten into the Monkees as a result. It was a reference point for
I love Sean, and he's such a charming, incredibly talented guy.
I was with my cousin. I've been in a few, and I've watched a lot of great things that you don't always find right away. And Matt Damon addressed something about this, where, you know, you'd have a theatrical release for a movie. Then if it didn't do that well in the theaters, there was still DVD sales. But now release a movie, to streaming services right away. So there's not that time for word of mouth. But you do find so many good movies that are out there. And speaking of that, there is one that you're currently in right now, which I did watch. I've interviewed Alan Unger. My friend Chiara were in this movie as well. I was talking to Alan, and like we're around the same age, and we grew up watching the same kinds of movies.
Yeah.
And we love the buddy cop films of the 80s and 90s. And this was based off of a true story. You portrayed Linda. And there's a lot, like, I mean, Chiara filled me in on, I didn't know. So Mel's basically, he plays Tommy, the crime boss.
Yes.
Josh comes in at one, his character, he plays Gilbert. He comes in, he's trying to prove himself to you and Mel. You're timing him, testing him. And there is this other backstory with you and Mel's character. You reveal that you have a child who is Chiara.
Yes.
You both understand your lives, and a lot of what Chiara and I were talking about too is how Mel's character, people who came from lower income households, no fault of their own, and they had to adapt to a situation. And unfortunately, they chose a life of crime. Alan and I, we talked, I learned a little bit more about the real Gilbert. And I had a friend who we used to make movies together. At 15, he lost his father, and it was a critical time for him. And he ended up making some bad decisions. He's not with us anymore. And so I experienced that firsthand, sort of watch this portrayed in a movie. It is a fun action heist, but the characters are very layered, deep.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because when I watched the film, Mel and I are married, actually, and whether people will get that from the movie or not, because I'm also, the matriarchal bartender, and I know what's going on, and I kind of take care of the pack, so to speak. We've got character who's a junkie, and he's constantly high, and and then it just there's all the actors that portrayed, kind of became like a tribe there for that time that we were in that strip club, kind of dark and smoky, and it just had this feeling of, yes, crime, that on the exterior, yes, it, people ostensibly would think, oh, they're going into a strip club, but it's got the layers that you're talking about. The environment has those layers as well as the characters, so it made it easier for us to really kind of find those moments and live in that world, and it was really fun. And I love that we have a daughter, and she was so wonderful. She did such an incredible job, and I felt like, oh my God, I don't want her to be in this environment. We have to pay the bills, and this is, like, as you said, what we've chosen.
Exactly. And it felt that way too. It was actually a movie too that, I watched it, and then there were parts I wanted to really go into, really explore, like certain quotes that were in there.
It's such a fun-packed movie, and it has a lot of layers, as you said. I watched it last night for the first time. I was just totally floored and amazed, and just in it, just it's rare that I watch things that I'm in that I can kind of just relax and enjoy the ride. But Josh Duhamel, it's just such a kick-ass performance, and Elisha, Nesta's just, there's nothing he can't do. He's just one of those incredible actors, which is why he's so versatile. And everybody in the movie is, and it was just a real honor to get to work with Alan and Craig, the writer, and all of the whole crew. They were all great. It was great being in Georgia too, and faking Georgia for Canada. That's
exactly.
that's a challenge, but they pulled it off. It was amazing.
I felt the chemistry that you both have, where it's like, okay, Mel, he's got to be the tough guy, and he has like an image to maintain. You can tell like you were the brains behind the operation. You're behind the bar, and you always have the right answer. When your daughter comes in, you give the signal, and you're like, we do not want our daughter exposed to our lives. You played it brilliantly.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was. She's got kind of a swagger to her, and kind of a tough chick. Definitely at the epicenter of it all, and keeping everybody grounded.
Olivia, this has just been so great talking to you today. Again, I'm a fan of your work. You were in so many great movies that did shape, some of my decisions as an actor and filmmaker and host. And you've done some brilliant performances. What's next for you?
Oh, well, I also have a film out called Traveling Light, which is really fun. It's a Bernard Rose film with Stephen Dorff and Danny Houston and Tony Todd. So that's also out in theaters. I'm working on an amazing prog rock album at the moment, which I'm really excited about. I have a series coming out called Queer Talk, and it's just a question of whether it's going to go to a streaming service or Hulu or Netflix. And I have a film toward the, in the next couple of months, but can't really talk about it yet, but it's very exciting and it's an incredible script. It all takes place in Boston. So there's lots of stuff cooking.
Lots of stuff cooking. You're always busy. What don't you do? Olivia, it is truly an honor to have you on the show. Everyone give it up for Olivia Diablo. She has a career that has spanned decades, brilliant performances, and you can currently watch her in the new movie, Bandit, with Mel Gibson, Josh Duhamel, Elisha Cuthbert, Chiara D'Ambrosio. Please check it out on all streaming platforms and get out and go to the cinema. Olivia, again, it's truly an honor. You have an open invite anytime you want to come on and chat. I know you and I could probably talk about music, movies, stand up for hours.
For sure.
But listen, we're going to give the audience, giving them a good show today, but yeah, we're leaving them with a cliffhanger. So you got to tune in, watch Olivia, keep up with her, and we're going to be back rocking soon.
Sounds good to me. So well said. You're a rock star.
I try.
I tried to do that last night and it was like way more Star Trek.
More of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for rocking out with me and Olivia Diablo today. You are On Air with Kash.
On it with Kash.